be out here praising Yahuwah.
They ask me who I am. Yeah. They ask me who I am. I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from. I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. When I say Israelite, they say you Jewish. Look, don't be foolish. Come get a dose of this mental renewing. See how we brew it, it's just different. Like, for instance, first thing to know, bro, it's a culture, no religion. Talking the bloodline, they say we Jacob children. And yeah, that's a factor, but what really matter, how we living? Given that we gotta get Beseda, that mean in order. For that we got that Torah, some brothers we got Basora. Of course, and some don't believe, but that don't matter today. I ain't trying to throw no shade, as long as we all stay in the way. That 613, we coolin' like palm trees. A couple they got, yeah, ain't no fam, know what I mean. They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. He said that we the light, got no choice but to shine. By the sweat of your brow, now you see why we grind, how we do, and we move to keep that ruach in our midst. When we eat, I got a list. Wanna build, break out them scripts. We don't hate and we don't diss. We ain't worried about another. He called us his firstborn. You get called us big brother. Look deeper and you'll discover. In your movies and shows, you've been exposed. But you know about those captured and sold. The Igbo and the Ashanti. Check out your history, never lost. Ain't gotta find me. Right where we meant to be, rebellion. Led to expulsion, repentance, fix that. God, I get back. I get caught on big facts. They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite.
And we ain't saying this our salvation or nothing, but the Most High just put his name on it, so we represent. All praise. Shalom.
All right. Welcome to another segment of YAH Conscience Radio. Well, if it's not conscience, it is not acceptable. Anak Nurotim, Latet Kabod, Weshabagla, Yahweh, El Elyon, Aloe, Abraham, Yitzchak, Jacob. We want to give honor and praise to he or it that calls us to be or exist, the most high power, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So again, welcome to another segment. This is going to be a beautiful one. We got a lot of different topics. And first I want to, make sure I give, honor to my co-panelists, my co-host. We have the better Kathy. We have Ron, and we have Chief Zebulon Lewi Adekia. How y'all doing?
Shalom.
I'm good.
Hallelujah. Beautiful week. Not too challenging, not too stressful. I know we got some families and things of that nature, jobs and all that businesses. All right. So today's topic, I called it spouse control. Now, when people hear that just off the rip, it's like, okay, spouse control. I ain't about to be with nobody that's controlling. But it's a reason I chose that topic with these that title with these beautiful topics that was given to me. So let's go ahead and get started with the first topic. Let's get started with the first topic. And the first topic is, what does it mean for a man to provide? What does it mean for a man to provide? And a follow-up question is, what does it mean for a woman to be his helpmate? So let's go ahead and let me go ahead and pass the mic to Chief Zabulan. We want to go ahead and hear that wisdom. What you got? What you got? What does it mean for a man to provide? And what does it mean for a woman to be his helpmate?
Yeah, first and foremost, shalom, shalom. All praise to Most High, YAH, Ahaya, if that's what you use. Yeah, these are very loaded questions. Because I think some of the questions, in order for them to be answered, I guess certain parameters have to be created. So, for instance, if we look at the first one, what does it mean for a man to provide? Well, that really depends on a couple of things. First and foremost, what does the word provide? What does the word provide even mean? The time period in which these terms, because when we use the term provide, there has to be some type of etymological springboard that we're able to launch these definitions from. And one of the things that I had, in preparing for this episode, I'm like, well, okay, well, what does the word provide? What is the etymology of the word provide? And interestingly enough, I pick up, it's a 15th century Latin term. So obviously, this word is not that old. 15th century, from Latin providere, which means to look ahead, prepare, supply. From pro, meaning ahead, and videre, to see. In other words, a visionary. Someone who's able to see beyond the here and now. Now, the funny thing about the term itself is that when we're comparing this term to the current usage today, among men and women, but more specifically black men and black women, is that today the term provedere or provide really only means one thing. And let's just kind of, let's just deal with the elephant in the room. It means financial. That's it. Now, we may not believe that that's the only thing it means, but let's be honest. in African American households, the understanding is that to provide means to bring forth financial provisions. That's it. Anything else that we attach to that term provide, you don't hear that coming up in conversations with people. So when a person says, well, I provide leadership, that term is usually somehow attached right back to finances. Or if you say, well, I provide a moral compass for the family, or the moral compass for it, somehow gets brought back to the finances. And so I think we live in a time in which, especially those of us who are, who understand that we are Hebrew Israelites, that, we live in a time in which we are trying to utilize old, archaic definitions and trying to make them fit in a modern context that was never meant for Hebrew Israelite men or women. And this is where I think the difficulty comes in. And for now, I'm not going to go too deep because I want everybody else to bring forth their understanding, and maybe we can just kind of do a carousel on this topic. But I just think that the term provide has to be, we have to define the term provide, and not only define it, but also decide whether we're going to utilize it in the way that it was meant, or are we going to stay with the a contemporary definition and go down that road, wherever that road may lead. And I think the same thing applies to the term helpmate for a woman. What does that even mean? And in order to get that definition, we first have to figure out, well, what does it mean for a man to be, again, the provider? Because her being a helpmate, and that term is kind of sketchy anyway, but you know, that in order for us to figure that term out, we have to be able to connect it to the man's purpose, his purpose in being a provider. What is the purpose of man? I think we had this conversation on another platform on manhood, and we talk about a man. You know, what is a man's what is the purpose? What is his vision? What is his goals? What is it that this man brings to the table as a man? And once we define that, then we can figure out what the woman is there to help him with. Her status as a helpmate is contingent on the man having a clear definition of what his purpose is. Because how can she help someone who doesn't have a vision? Going back to provider. So that's really all I want to touch on right now, because I want everybody to have an opportunity to go in and bring it out from everybody else's perspective as well. So that's all I'm gonna say right now.
Okay, appreciate that, Chief Zabulan. Let's go with Geberet Kathy. What she got for us? So the question is, again, which I'm sure you already know, what does it mean?
Chief said a mouthful.
Right. Asked me to follow behind that.
He did. It was like check. Oh, he said that part.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
I gotta.
No, that. Well, in all fairness, that's why I was like, let me just say a couple of things, because I want everybody to hammer away at this before we start getting even deeper into it. Because
you hit points. You hit valid points.
Yeah, good points. Let's go with it. What you got, Gebert?
Okay, so shalom, everyone. I hope all is well. So I'm going to go back to the word structure that we talked about last week. Structure has to be there. And again, as Chief said, what does the word provide mean? What does the word provide means to that individual family? What are their individual needs? And what are their needs collectively? That's what we, I think, sometimes drift away from, because you're individuals that become one, but you're still individuals that the Most High made, if that makes any sense.
Indeed.
For me, as a woman, at my age range and where I am at this point in time in life, what provide means to me in my household is the Most High. Knowing the truth, that feels just so good. So that's why I said it's a point. To me, I think it's important to identify what that household and what those individuals and collectively what they consider provide. And you also have to have that structure there. You have to have that understanding. We can't, with us living in America today, we can't base it on the old biblical terms where the man's, the sole breadwinner, the wife is at home being able to do X, Y, and Z or whatever. I'm not saying that it cannot be done, but I don't think that word provide to me necessarily means financial, because the money can be taken away from me at any given point in time. But if my husband is providing me knowledge, teaching me, we working together towards a common goal, even if you drift sometimes, that's what I need. He's providing that. And Chief also said, how can you be a helpmate when a man doesn't have a vision? Men often have visions, but sometimes they don't see how to implement it. Sometimes we, as women, we see the men living bigger in the dream than themselves. So for me, helpmate means helping the individual see it in a different aspect than what they're saying. And at that point, help them try to achieve those goals. But you can't, you can take as my grandmother would say, you can take a cow to the water, but you can't make them drink. You can teach a man how to fish, but they may not want to fish. But I'm just saying those efforts should be made. Those and again, in my opinion, is one of the definitions of a helpmate. When men get down, men have issues as well. Helpmate, what can I do to help? I don't think it's always fair that a helpmate, I think I heard someone say they're not really clear on that. I think it's a very broad, but a very important role. And again, that goes back to the word provide. How much of a helpmate does your husband need? How much are you willing to be? But I don't know. That's just my opinion on it.
I love it. You got some good points. I can't wait to say my piece on it because I'm picking from both of y'all. I'm like Steve Harvey in what was that comedy? Kings of Comedy. He fed off of what they brought forth, But let's go ahead with Gabriel Sharon. What you got for us?
Hey, shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Shalom. Chief and Kathy, I guess y'all said a mouthful for me. For me, it's pretty simple. Let's look at the definition of provide. When you provide something, you are making an adequate preparation for. So, to me, it's whatever that man envisions himself, or whatever he envisioned himself and positioned himself to go forth or to implement. Whether it be financially, whether it be mentally, spiritually, physically. Now, in the case of the topic, we talking about spouse control. If you want to provide, or if you're looking to marry, yes, you have to adequately prepare for marriage, or adequately prepare to house a woman. So I guess it's like how Chief said, I guess it's whatever that man has envisioned himself to implement as far as as provision. Also, provided, it's not always financially, it's spiritually as well, it's mentally as well. In this day and times, we look at men and we look at this dynamic, this relationship dynamic as if he can provide all my needs, then we don't need to be married, or we don't need to be together. Where that's not really realistic if you're talking about different time frames, especially in this time frame. We need all hands on deck for the success of a household, because we know that we're living in the land of our enemies, of our oppressors. So we have to also consider the times that we are living in as well. A helpmate is really just assisting the preparations. That's it. A woman helping her husband, or a woman helping her spouse, she is just assisting in the preparations of the bigger picture or of the household. So that's kind of like where my perspective of a provider and a helpmate. In a helpmate, we look at Proverbs 31. Let's take a look at Proverbs 31.
Okay, bring the script, bring the literature.
Because we got to consider, and I see it on both ends. I see it that, okay, women, we want men to be financially stable or provide 100%. But then what are we doing on our part? What are we doing on our part? So I always like to read Proverbs 31, because it really tells women that, no, you're not supposed to be sitting home looking pretty and just have the men provide 100% to the household. Not saying that that's not his job, but also her job is to what? Proverbs 31 verse 13. She seeks wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She rises also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. And it go on and on and on. So I guess at the end of the day, everybody has their job portion.
That's right.
Both men and women must provide. both men and women are each other housemates.
I love it. I love it.
That's just my perspective on it.
It's an amazing perspective. It's an amazing perspective on what all of you all were saying. I had to sit up a little bit, right? I love how she brought the Proverbs 31. So I want to bring in some script. Before I say something, I want to bring a script. Proverbs, we in that Proverbs 29 and 18. This is going to hit everything that every last one of you all said. In my opinion. It's an echo. I don't know who that is. Hello? Can y'all hear me? Okay, no echo now. So it says, and this is ESV, so whatever version you read is cool, right? But it says, where there is no prophetic vision. I kind of like to say prophetic, although I don't know if it says in the Hebrew. I have to check it out. Prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, right? Or in other translations, they perish. But blessed is he who keeps the law. All right, so let's dig into that a little bit. Now, that law word is Torah, right? You know, we understand Torah law. You know, this is, I believe, and I'll let Chief Zebulon correct me if I'm wrong, but this part right here, what says keep the law, keep the instructions. It can be pushed for Torah law, the first 5, but think about what it's saying. Let me reread this because I want y'all to pay attention to what Geberet Sharon brought out when she said about the vision, like for seeing it, right? Where there is no prophetic vision, again, this is ESV, not sure if it say that in Hebrew, the people cast off restraint. It does. Oh, shoot. Okay. The people cast off restraint or they perish. But blessed is he that keeps the instruction. So where there's no vision, provide. Let's go off provide. Provide is definitely not just money. Provide has to do with things pertaining to spirituality, things pertaining to vision more so than anything. A lot of failing things, people that fail is because they didn't have a vision or a prophetic vision, seeing afar or in front of, seeing all the little moments and things that might take place to where we need to have something in place. It didn't have certain instructions. Remember it said, what did it say at the end? It says, but blessed is he who keeps the Torah, the instructions. So it's different things that need to be put in place, whether it's the man, he's supposed to be the leader, but yet, remember last week we was talking about the CEO and the COO. I coined that from Chief Zebulon, right? And they're working together. Without that CEO, the COO, that CEO can't function properly. They got to work together. But the working together comes from that vision. This man has to have that vision and then needs to pick a woman like what she brought in Proverbs 31. This woman was already a go-getter.
Right. Yeah.
She was already either a go-getter from just naturally being that, or she was taught that through the community or family that she was a part of from youth. So I'm saying that to say, for those that's listening or listen back, if you're not that woman or that man, one of the greatest things to get to the point to what a man is supposed to provide is to get under righteous men that knows how to, not solely on money, because I know plenty people with money and failed relationships, marriages. So it's more than that. Same thing with the what does it mean for a woman to be his helpmate? Some women are not taught it. And if you're not taught it, go to somebody who can teach or help. But you got to have a desire for it. But it all starts from that vision. And I believe the woman needs to have that vision as well, for it to succeed, and to mesh together with what strengths you all have. So that's my take on it. Anybody have anything to add to it?
Okay, it's amazing. Well, not really amazing, but it's a beautiful thing that what Geberet Sharon, when she brought out Mishle 31, and I think you know this already, Maury. I'm currently, whenever I get the opportunity to do it, I'm currently working on another book dealing with Proverbs 31 and how it has played out, how it plays out, and how it has been utilized in the modern construct of African American relationships, and how in some ways it's been made obsolete. And when I say African American, I'm making a clear distinction between African Americans who are still asleep versus those of us who understand that we are Hebrew Israelites and we serve the Most High. I'm making a conscious distinction between those of us who are in this walk, because we pretty much know this stuff that we're talking. We know what we're talking about. But for African Americans who are not there, who are not in the Torah, who are not in the culture, Proverbs 31 has actually proven to be an archaic construct.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that Geber Sharon brought that out, because these are some of the issues that I'm going to be tackling. But one particular issue is the idea that the change, the kind of like the changing of the guard. I mean, in ancient times, and this is part of the problem. In ancient times, the idea of a spouse, or one spouse or one individual being the provider, was foreign. The idea that a man was the primary, in some cases the absolute provider, we actually don't see that in ancient times like that. Why? Because, well, if a man, if and let's be very clear, if we were a people who worked the soil, we were people who who built things for a living, who we built homes with our bare hands, we farmed, we did all of these different things. These were jobs that were sun up to sundown. These were sun up to sundown type of jobs. And if that's the case, the other person, the other spouse or partner, whatever, they would have had to been putting in an equal amount of work, because if this person is out in the field from 7 a to 7 p, and it's sometimes longer than that, then what's happening on the home front? What's happening with the children? And so from a realistic standpoint, the idea of a lopsided provisional, platform of just one person doing the main providing, whatever, it wasn't real in ancient times, and it's not, like Sister Sharon said, it's not practical today. Definitely not today, because we don't live in our own land. We're not set up in an environment in which we can move the way we would naturally move. We're in an environment amongst our enemies who have pitted each other, one against the other, who have pitted the man against the woman, pitted the woman against the man, and now we are all fighting for this. We're all fighting for this power concept of being a provider. And I'm just going to give a quick example of that, because I'm forgive me, because I'm trying to get some of these thoughts that I typed down together. But consider how when you listen to videos on social media, whether it be on Twitter or whatever, you hear this narrative of the men being the sole providers. They're the ones who's supposed to pay the rent. They're supposed to be to pay all the utilities. They're to pay all the food, or whatever the case may be. Now, that's fine. I mean, if that's how a person is going to work their situation, okay, fine. But when that narrative is pushed, it's usually pushed from the point of view of the man is taking care of X, Y, Z, and the woman is really not taking care of much other than her beauty. That's the narrative that's out there. And so you hear people say that, the man, you have to provide. But these are old, archaic constructs that come from what? The time of chivalry. But when you take these concepts and you reverse them and say, well, okay, well, if there's a requirement that the man act like a chivalrous man from the 1600s, and then there's an expectation that, okay, the woman also has to be within that construct as well. The kickback to that is what? You can't take me back to the 50s. Well, I'm not a woman from the 1950s. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Women are not, they're expecting to exist in a world in which they're not expected to do what ancient men do. Ancient men are expected to do what ancient men do, but women are not expected to do their part from that construct. If you understand what I'm saying. I think it's so much confusion. It's so much confusion. Because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at a video where there is a woman saying that the idea of a man going 50-50 with his woman means that he is not a man. That no man is supposed to do 50-50 with his woman.
Let's hold on.
Right. Yeah, right. But
let's close it out with the team. And we're gonna go ahead and move.
I completely forgot about that question part. But yeah. But yeah, so I mean, but again, it goes back to what is it that we're talking about when we say again the helpmate. And so I'm trying to avoid certain things that's going to go into the next conversation or the next subject. But when we talk about a helpmate, and that's why I always put it back to the idea of providing. What is the? Are we echoing?
I went ahead and muted Gabetta Sharon because go ahead though.
Yeah, my apologies. That was actually part of what was throwing me a little bit because I'm trying to talk over the echo. But yeah, so yeah, but as far as the helpmate issue, I think again, those of us who are in the Hebrew Israelite paradigm, I think for the most part, we're pretty much clear on these things. These things are, these things are clear for Israelite women, for Israelite men. We know what we're supposed to do. We know what we're supposed to how we're supposed to move forward with vision. But I think that most of these discussions that we're on these topics, they have a lot to do with the African American community generally outside of the Hebrew Israelite paradigm. And I think these terms have to be more effectively defined. And I think that Sister Sharon probably more so than I did an excellent job in clarifying it, and along with Sister Kathy in trying to give more clearer definitions of these terms and how we're supposed to move forward with them. So I kind of went on a mini rant, but I just wanted to say that those examples that they gave, I think, is what's needed to go towards making these issues way more clearer. Especially for those of us those of our people who are not in the Israelite paradigm, that are still operating in the African American paradigm. So,
okay, and I want to, me, Bayet Ma'azan, balance, house of balance. I want to be balanced to say that also, even within our community, they're bringing in that thought, not all the way across the board, of course, but it's there, and I believe it has to do with a lot of times not being part of an organization, the camp, and also, or not being taught by good teachers, whether a woman or man, to understand these points that they were bringing out. Anyone else have anything to say before we go ahead and play the first song of the night? Good, better, Kathy, you good? All right. I'm going to assume that Good, better, Sharon is good too. All right, let's go ahead and play the next song. And the next song is by Moetan, and it's called Changed Man, here we go.
Ezekiel 36:25-27. And I shall sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean. From all your filthiness and from all your idols I cleanse you. And I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take your heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh, and put my spirit within you. And I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings, and shall do them.
Yeah, I'm glad you would change me. Yeah, I don't do what I used to know. I don't go where I used to go. I'm glad you would change me. People look at me like, who is you? I tell them, homie, you ain't know. I'm glad you would change me. Yeah, I'm flipping packs for the dollar. I give all glory to the Father. I'm glad you would change me. Change me. Yeah. That kingdom work, that is my motto. Glad you would.
Going down the wrong path, like how did I end up here? Where am I at? Standing in front of the fork in the road. Go right and left, man, I ain't know. But I know it gotta be a better way. Keep on looking back over my shoulder. I'm just trying to make a way for my family. Up in the trap, flipping these roads. Tired of trying to get a job. I stay unemployed cause of old weed case from 98 and it wasn't even mine. But they hit me with it anyway. So I turn up on the weekend and I turn up on the weekday. Drinking till the room spin around. Smoking till I can't see straight. It's getting old, something gotta shake. Gotta chill out for my wife and kids. Feeling like my name is David Wayans. I know that dirty shame is what it is. Mind wandering like a lost kid. Can somebody help me find a way? Sick of living life like this. Father, please show me your face. I am nothing with no grace. Just a madman with an attitude. But I'm home now and I know better. So I'm showing way more gratitude. Rock YAH Conscience, Ani Halal El Elyon. Transforming my phone booth and I hop out with my touches on.
Change me. Yeah, I don't know what I used to know. I don't go where I used to go. I'm glad you would change me. People look at me like, who is you? I tell them, homie, you ain't know. I'm glad you would change me. Yeah, flipping packs for the dollar. I give all glory to the Father. I'm glad you would change me. Change me. Yeah. That kingdom work, that is my motto. Glad you would.
Now I got a new game plan, new product, more post. Once you hit it, ain't no turning back. Unless you reprobate, it is no joke. I'ma serve it to you straight lace. No chase, pure uncut. Wrap it up in some ruach. The most high for the low, bro. I used to be out on the street. Heat on the straight on one. Now I be out on the street with my seat sold in my Oculus. I look back with no regrets. Told I y'all for every situation that I went through. That was all lessons. Like the test you gotta take for graduation. With me, yeah, you had a lot of patience. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't cut me off. Let your Holy Spirit rain on me. Leave it on, don't shut it off. Put me way in the valley low so I can get the people don't nobody see. Like the widows and the fatherless and the poor folks out on the streets.
See, I'm just trying to show my folks a better way. No, we ain't gotta hit the block, no. Unless we serving scripts to them peoples, turn them on to the Father, that's the whole plot. Glad you would change me. Yeah, I don't know what I used to know. I don't go where I used to go. I'm glad you would change me. People look at me like, who is you? I tell them, homie, you ain't know. I'm glad you would change me. Yeah, flipping packs for the dollar. I give all glory to the Father. I'm glad you would change me. Change me. Yeah. That kingdom work, that is my motto. Glad you would. Glad you would change me. Glad you would change me.
All right. I'm glad y'all changed me. I'm glad it changed me. How about y'all? Y'all glad? Y'all glad y'all got changed? On this path? You know, things that was brought forth through the literature. You know, people be hating on the literature. What they call the Bible, say, oh, that's a white man. But I said, man, there's more wisdom in this book. If it was written by the white man, then all praises. But we know that's not the truth. But I'm just saying, a lot of stuff within this, most stuff within this can change your life, you know.
I hate when I hear people say that. They'll be like, oh, it's written by the white man. But then it's like, well, wait a minute, but you're like $50,000 in debt in a white college.
Exactly.
So how does that work? But you know what I'm saying? Like if you're gonna be, you know, if you're gonna if they're gonna make statements like that, there has to be some type of consistency. If you're gonna, you know, you got to be consistent to say, well, you know what, I don't, I'm not dealing with the Bible because I believe it's a white man's book. And you know what? I'm not going to the white man's college because it's a white man's college. I'm not going to work at a white man's job. I'm not going to, I mean, you have to do it across the board. We can't, pick and choose when we want to be militant and when we want to be mainstream.
And that goes into what I want to bring out before I let the people know the next topic real quick. You said something, and I want to bring it out really quick. Give me a second. So, Proverbs. We in Proverbs a lot tonight, huh? Proverbs 11. This is one of my favorite scripts in it tonight. Proverbs 11, 1 through 3. And I'm gonna read the ESV. And for those that might be listening, like, man, you need to read the KJV, why are you reading the ESV? Hey, man, look, I could read it in this actual attested language. You know what I'm saying? For those that don't know. I'm just reading this because it's a decent translation. But here we go. A false balance is an abomination to the Most High Yah. Oh, my goodness. Didn't you just say something about being consistent, Chief? That sounds like, damn, they're not balanced to me. Let's keep reading.
That's right.
I ain't about to make no doctrine with this, but let's keep reading. A false balance is an abomination to Most High Yah, but a just weight is his delight. Here we go. And it's the reason I'm reading this because it's going to segue right into this topic. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with the humble is wisdom. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. Next topic is going 50-50 the way to go today? Is going 50-50 the way to go today? Let's go ahead and let's go with better Sharon. I'm picking on you this time. Gotta pick on you this time.
Considering the times that we are living in, it's definitely the most logical and the most realistic way to go. Mm-hmm. I do feel like it brings about balance in your household. We got to consider inflation. Let's think about it. That's just the beginning. How much is gas? How much do y'all for your tanks up? No, honestly,
$20 every 3 days.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So calculate that per week, along with rent, along with many other things that we have to pay in order to be civil citizens in our land of oppressors, right? Also, we have to understand the systematic system as far as with Black men financially. Everything is catered to women. I have to play the devil's advocate with that. It is, women has a lot of leisure, financial leisure than our Black men here.
Not make this up.
You have to
make it up.
Yeah, you got to. You just have to consider all angles and make the necessary adjustments from there. And most times, at the end of the day, when you calculate it between men and women, yeah, it is 50-50, or at least 60-40.
I'm glad you brought that part out too, because nothing
is never 100% on the man's side or either side.
Okay. Let's go into that. Better Kathy, I don't know if you are able, but what's your thoughts on Koto Gabetta Sharon bringing out the fact that you have your 50-50s, but you got your 60-40s and things like that. What's your take on that? We don't have to stay on the 50-50, but it was just that, how it is, the sayings that's out there today. So that's why I threw that number out there. So it's whatever number you want to use, though. You're muted, by the way.
I agree with my sister Sharon that, this day and age is no longer, I'm not going to say no longer. I'm sorry. The 50-50 range is kind of smaller. in measurement today. Like she said, is more so like the 60-40. But this also goes back to when we was talking about, you know, like what is the definition of provide? Because, and you have to have some sort of understanding again with each other, what your expectations are. Because I personally, I'm not going to say it's dependent on the household, because I know sisters, I have sisters, Sharon knows sisters that are holding it down with 4 or 5 kids. There isn't, you know, a male in the household, and they're living fine. So they doing 100%.
Right.
We can't keep them out of the equation. Then you have men that are single parents that are doing 100%.
I like that balance you just did right there. That's what I'm talking about. False balance is an abomination. I like that balance.
Right. But, you know, so it's not only a couple thing. You know, you may have individual males, individual females out here raising their children. Can it be done? Yes, it can. Does it require some support? Yes, it does, whether the individual realizes it or not. But that goes back to, again, what we was talking about earlier, you know what I'm saying? Provide. What if someone can provide 100% in your life? They fall short. How do you fill the gap? That could be vice versa. You know what I mean? But again, we talking about here. We talking about, you know what I mean, in this land, because I don't think that it would be, in my opinion, as difficult if, you know, if we were home. So we're talking about more so really now, because we wouldn't have these questions. We wouldn't have these discussions. I would like to believe home. It would just be laid out. But talking here, sometimes it takes two. Sometimes, you know, those individuals can make it work for themselves. I think it's a case-by-case basis.
I agree. I agree with you. I agree.
That's it.
Y'all know I'm gonna push back with the whole like I feel like, you know, when something has been going a certain way for so long, you know, we have to, and it's gonna take for us to come together collectively and like really view the literature as though it actually works. And I believe that and Chief, my bad, I'm bringing you on, so I'm just gonna say my little quick. I'm flipping the order around. But I believe if we can reteach, you know, our children, like I was talking to my daughter the other day, and man, if she was to talk to y'all right now, she'd be like, every time we're together, I'm always talking about the future for her. I'm always trying to teach her things that nobody knew in my family or nobody knew in her mom's family. You know, nobody is doing the stuff that I'm trying to teach her. So she can change that. You know, I'm teaching that Jeremiah L, that Yirmiyahu 29, you know. But like you said, you know, today is that's how it is today. Now it is a group of people that are able to operate in that manner as far as the 100, you know, but they also are executing the Jeremiah 29. If a lot of us, but I believe some of us are, or a lot of us are scared to really do that because of the lack of trust that we have for one another. So that's another topic. I'm not gonna go there, but it is great examples out there within our community that's actually doing it. The men are able to also because they're working together, they're building that social economic trust with each other, you know, those type of things. So anywho, I'm gonna pass the mic. Chief Zabulan, what you got? What you got for us? Is going 50-50 the way to go today?
No. but I say no with a caveat. I'm not saying that in the absolute. What I'm saying, the reason why I said that, and I think everybody's already been kind of hitting on this idea that it's a not only is it a case by case situation, but it's also it's task by task. And I think when a man and a woman is together and they sit down and they start assessing the needs of their household, not just financial needs, but spiritual needs, intellectual needs, health needs, all of these different things. We come to an understanding that there's going to be some things that the man is going to be more adept and more apt at doing than the woman. And then there's going to be some things where clearly the woman is more adept and more equipped to handle certain things than he is. So in these type of situations, we have to look and say, okay, it kind of reminds me of the tithing practice in scriptures. Why does the scripture tell us about tithing? And again, we're not going to get into the whole the priesthood issue and whether or not there's a legitimate priesthood, but assuming that these things were already set up, why does the scripture tell us that tithing was a tenth of what you have, as opposed to an absolute number? Like, why does the scripture says, "Thou shalt giveth five oxen"? You see them? Why? Because why? Good.
No, I said I love what you're bringing out right now. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm let you. The point is
right. Because there's two things in scripture that we read that I think plays a major role in what we're talking about. One of those things, it says that the poor shall never cease shall always be in the land. Meaning that there's always going to be situations where there are going to be individuals that are going to not have the enough finances, enough other elements in order to live a productive life. The poor shall never cease from the land. But also, we see that a tenth is given in paying tithes. Why? Because 10% of what you have will be relative to what you're bringing in. So we can't. So just from that alone, a 50-50, the concept of 50-50 is difficult because, again, let's say if I don't know, let's say the mortgage, you have a mortgage that you pay every month, and let's say the mortgage is $1,800 a month. Now let's say the man makes, I don't know, $50,000 a year, but let's say his wife only makes 25. Is she required to pay the same amount bill-wise with her 25 than he pays with his 50? Would that be equitable? Or would that put more pressure on her because she's only making 25,000 versus his 50? It would not be equitable at all. It'll be like, well, wait a minute, because I can pay my part. If I'm making 50,000 and I pay my part, I'm not really hurting. I'm like, okay, yeah, I paid that. I'm good. She might hurt from paying an equal amount as he's paid. She might be looking at her paycheck like, okay, what the hell am I going to work for? Like, this is not making any sense. So this is the reason why a tenth, these concepts of percentages was put into place so that no matter what you earn, no matter what you brought in, 10% doesn't hurt anybody. So if you only make $1,000, to say if you only make $1,400 a month from your salary, 10% is not going to hurt you. But if you make $4,000 a month, again, 10% doesn't hurt. So everything is it's relative to what you're bringing in. So 50-50, while it sounds good and it makes for good relationship fodder, it's not practical, especially in this place. It just isn't. I think it has to do with, what you're able to bring to the table is dependent on what you're able to provide, or what you're able to pay depends on what you're bringing in monetarily. And I'm only saying that monetarily because that's the issue that's really on the forefront in today's discussions. But yeah, 50-50 is it sounds good, but it's difficult to put into practical application because it would require that both parties earn the same. They earn the same in gross, and they earn the same in their net. That's the only way a 50-50 can make sense. Otherwise, it would be an injustice on one of their parts. Somebody's going to get the short end of the stick, and that would not be equitable, and that's going to create anger. That's going to create bitterness, because it's like, hey, wait a minute, why is half my check going to bills, but only a third of your check is going to bills? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, I want to add in there really quick. I want to jump in. I believe, and I want you all's thoughts on this. I believe that the whole 50-50 is stemming from this equal thing that that's being pushed on both the man and the woman in society today. You know, we all equal, this and that. And here's the thing. It's kind of like no one person in the world is equal to the other person. They have their strengths. I'm trying to tie this into what you was bringing out. They have their different strengths. So each percentage of, you know, what a person can do is based upon that person. So when we're saying, you know, 50-50, or, I expect us to do 50-50 on how we operate. No, let's go. Now I'm twisting a little bit. Let's go 100% into our strengths. You know what I'm saying? So going back to this 50-50, whatever percentage it is that is your strength, and whatever you all envision, the vision that you had. I'm going back to that first one. The instructions that was placed or put forth, on the table for both of you all, or how you're going to operate, what you're going to spend, X, Y, and Z, is from, like Gabetta Kathy say, and I think some of you all said as well, it's kind of from home to home as of now.
Right.
It's based upon, we all got different careers. We all make different type of money. You know what I mean? So it's going to be based upon the house. And you got women that make more than the men today, too. We got to factor that in. That's a whole nother topic, but that's in this as well. So what's your all take on that? I'm gonna let you all let the sisters bring out if you have anything to say on what he said and what I said as well. Then we're going to the next song. If you all have anything to add, but if not, we go to the next song.
It's
Go ahead, Sean. No, go ahead. I was just going to say that we was talking about finances. It appears, the more and more we all spoke. However, there are things in a relationship that you do definitely have to take a 50-50 on, upbringing of the kids, just in my opinion, they're just, and I can't think of everything right now, but there are certain things that as a couple, you are going to have to go 50-50 on. And I agree with Chief that, and I said it earlier, what if somebody loses their job that was a sole provider? You know what I mean? How do you prepare, for that? But we were talking about finances, but when you get into, different aspects of a relationship or marriage, there are certain things that you are going to have to come together 50-50 on. And that's all I had to say.
And the only pushback I got with that, Kathy, why I'm always pushing back with you. I'm always pushing back. It's a great pushback.
Oh, no.
It's a great pushback, what I'm going to say. I promise you. It's like that thing, that's saying, it's so many sayings out there. And I think it's just, and that's why I was trying to make the point with the 50-50. I think it's so, we say a lot of things that's just being regurgitated, right? So it's like, think of 50-50 and the children. Let's use the children, for example, going 50-50, right? Now, I know what you mean when you say it, right? I know what you mean, but I want to throw a curveball. Imagine going 50-50. So that just means half and half, right? But the other person is not giving the same effort that you're giving. That's why for me, I'm just throwing this out there, y'all. Y'all don't got to take it or say what I say. But like I say 100, because if we both put in 100% of the effort that we both have into whatever it is, like what you said with the children in a relationship. I know that's another topic, you know, the same type of effort, which is still going to be a different type of effort because each individual person operates differently on how they give that love or give that the raising of the children. Men do it a little different than women sometimes, X, Y, and Z. But the thing is to go and give us the full effort in there. And the reason I try to get away from 50-50, not saying anyone's wrong or right by using it, is because I've heard so many people, women and men, talk about, well, man, he's not giving the same type of effort I'm giving, or she's not giving the same type of effort I'm giving. And then I always wonder, I'm like, is that because y'all believe in the 50-50? Y'all ain't putting 100% up of that, you know? So I just wanted to throw that up in there. It's something that goes on in my head when I'm speaking on that. Not saying I'm wrong or not saying I'm right, but just throwing it out.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Again, my response was based on the topic specifically of 50-50, but you're absolutely correct that when you engage in with your children, you should be given 100%. But if you're going to look at it on a marginal scale, as we typically do, I'm doing this percentage, he's doing this percentage. We're not looking at ourselves as, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Gotcha.
You know, it could be either that 60 or that 40. I totally agree, because then that's when you get, lost children, lost, families, because it's like, I did this. Now, what is this other parent going to do? It always requires 100% of you. I totally agree with you on that aspect. Again, I was just,
I got to throw a curveball out there. You caught the curveball though. I love it. All praises. Sharon, did you have anything before we move on?
Let's dive into this huge wave, this huge trend that women are the new providers. Have y'all ever
I've heard.
Yeah. So that caused gender wars.
Big time.
Between amongst our people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a different topic. I don't know. I don't want to drag that on, because I really do want to dive into that perspective of why it is such so many women being advocates of being the new providers now. Men are comfortable with women taking care of them. It's no
that's a whole show right there.
Yeah.
That's a whole show.
Is that a show? That's maybe a part 2 and 3.
Let's write that down. And for those that's watching, if you want to hear
Sharon and her topics.
Yes, you have. If you want to hear what we're gonna speak on that, please tune in to YAH Conscience Radio. Well, if it's not YAH Conscience Radio, it's not acceptable. Just want y'all to know that. We're gonna go ahead and go to the next song. And then we go with our last topic. I appreciate you on that, Ahut, again, because that's a great topic right there. And I think that needs to be heard not only in the so-called Black community, but also even within our community. So let's go ahead with the next song. And the next song is none other than Ben Blackwell. Y'all know I had to put some Hebrew in there. Some might say, it's not the real Hebrew. Cool. Reach out to me on Facebook. We can break bread on that topic, but let's go ahead and play our brother Ben Blackwell from Demona. And let's go with the tunes. Here we go.
When it goes, in another one. Yeah, and it goes. כמה זמן לקח לי רק כדי לכבוש אותך, וכמה זמן נפלתי כדי לחיות ברמה שלה. קדימה, go, go, go. קדימה די עזבי אותי, קדימה go, go, go. את רואה שכבר לא מסתדר, נו כבר, קדימה go, go, go. קדימה די עזבי אותי, קדימה go, את רואה שכבר לא מסתדר, נו כבר. לכי, ממי, אני לא נושם, כבר נפלתי, לא יכול יותר, אני לא מחפש לריב, נמאס לי כבר, יאללה ביי, קדימה צילי מחיי. משקיע את כל מה שיש בתוך הלב, מרוויח עולם שצער והרבה כאב, מרחם עלייך כי הגלגל לא תסתובב, הגלגל לא תסתובב. זוכר את הלילות, זוכר את המילים שגרמו למריבות, זוכר את השקרים שהתחפשו כהבטחות, זוכר שלבד גם אפשר לחיות, אבל עזבי שטויות, בינתיים פה יושב מוחק את העבר, המערכת יחסים הפכה עבר, וזה בסדר מצידי, כל עוד האש בוערת לא ירד שלג בליבי. היה פעם קשר רציני, עכשיו הקשר רק מזיק, כי הקשר לא בריא. אהבה אין צומי בשבילי, עד שמצאתי אהבה כבר איבדתי את עצמי, ניסינו מיליון פעם ולא עבר, ליבך כבר לא נמצא אצלי ביד, לא האמנתי מההתחלה, הגעתי לטופ האוטו שלי לבד. One time. F-A-M-O. כמה זמן לקח לי רק כדי לכבוש אותך, וכמה זמן נפלתי כדי לחיות ברמה שלה. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. קדימה, די, עזבי אותי. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. את רואה שכבר לא מסתדר, נו כבר. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. קדימה, די, עזבי אותי. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. את רואה שכבר לא מסתדר, נו כבר. לכי, ממי, אני לא נושם, כבר נפלתי, לא יכול יותר, אני לא מחפש לריב, נמאס לי כבר, יאללה ביי, קדימה צילי מחיי. יאו, תגידי כמה פעמים כבר ניהלנו את השיחה הזו, לא זוכר, וכמה פעמים כבר נכנסנו לפינה הזו, וואלה לא סופר, המבוי סתום, כבר ניסינו הכל ולא השגנו מאום, הכביש חסום, לא יעזור כלום, איתנו זה תמיד נגמר בבום. הלכנו לסרט ושתק כל הדרך, את לא מדברת גם בארוחת ערב, כל כך רחוקה ומנוכרת, זה ככה כבר חצי שנה בערך, אני לא קולט מה שאת משדרת, אולי פשוט כדאי שנשחרר, נעזוב הכל ונוותר, מה שהיה כבר לא יהיה יותר, בואי נעצור לפני שזה מידרדר, שיהיה לפחות נעים להיזכר. בזמנים שהיה לנו טוב, לפני שהכל התחיל לכאוב, חשבנו שנהיה ביחד עד הסוף, עד הסוף. בזמנים שהרגשנו אני רואה את המבט בעינייך, מותק להמשיך לא כדאי בי, אבל לא אולי הגיע הזמן לומר לך ביי. כמה זמן לקח לי רק כדי לכבוש אותך, וכמה זמן נפלתי, כמה זמן כדי לחיות ברמה שלה. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. קדימה, די, עזבי אותי. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. את רואה שכבר לא מסתדר, נו כבר. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. קדימה, די, עזבי אותי. קדימה, קדימה, go, go, go. את רואה שכבר לא מסתדר, נו כבר. לכי, ממי, אני לא נושם, כבר נפלתי, לא יכול יותר, אני לא מחפש לריב, נמאס לי כבר, יאללה ביי, קדימה צילי מחיי. פאפאי, 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 קדימה, קדימה, פאפאי, 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 קדימה, קדימה.
Yeah, so that was Ben Blackwell from Dimona, Israel. Not sure if you all are familiar with him. Definitely fluent in the modern Hebrew. We won't go into that because I know how some people feel about that. But if you ever want to talk, chop it up with me. I'll break it down with you. But again, welcome to YAH Conscience Radio, where if it's not conscious, it is not. Or YAH Conscience, it is not acceptable. We're going to go ahead and go to the last topic of this evening. Now, this topic, before I even put it for the people that's watching to see, I want to put a disclaimer out there. This is not to push this particular topic on anyone, but this is to get the women's view on it, bring their thoughts on it out, as well as Chief Zebulon, myself as well, just to bring some perspective, some thoughts. But this is a hot topic in our community. I'm talking about, I can't go a day without seeing a whole bunch of posts about this, especially in different groups, so we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Hold on, we got a comment. Shalom, my brothers and sisters. Shalom. Man, how do I say your name? Patata tut. I'm playing. Pronounce, write it in there. Let me know how you say your name, because I'm big on names and language.
My name Potato Tot.
Potato Tot.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I'm like,
I didn't know what it was. I'm sorry. Hey,
leave it to Roni. She got it.
I got you, sis. Potato Tot.
Gotta hold our sister down.
I love it. Hey, no shots thrown. I was, I thought it was a name. But anywho, let's go ahead and go into the next topic. Don't throw no stones at me. I'm sorry. It's likely. All right, next topic, you all, and that is polygyny even practical in modern times? Is polygyny even practical in modern times today? Is it practical? Is it even practical? What are the cons and what are the pros? Like, throw that in there too when you bring out your thoughts on it. Again, this isn't to push it, nor is it to say it's not good, but we need to talk about it. And I think we got some good individuals on this platform that's balanced with their approach, whether they believe in it or not. I just love how they break down their thoughts. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go with I'm gonna go with Chief this time, man. I'm gonna let the ladies, get that time, because I look at her. She I was picking on her, I Coach Sharon. But Chief Zeb, let's push it on you, man. What's your thoughts on it? What is polygyny even practical in modern times today? And if so, or if not, what are the cons and what are the pros?
Yeah, well, boy, this topic is always a slippery slope.
You don't want to say the wrong thing, they're gonna get you.
Oh no, I'm not busting my head about that. But I mean, it's slippery because I understand why it's a troubling topic. I get it, and I get it from both sides. I get why it's popular. And let's be honest, most I think that the majority of people who are proponents of it are males, and I think many of the many of the individuals who give kickback to it tend to be, and I'm just going by from what I see on social media, tend to be females, women. And I get both sides of the situation. I get it. But I will say this, that as far as it being practical in modern times, I think all of our laws, commandments, judgments, statutes, ordinances, and testimonies are practical in any time. If they weren't, then it wouldn't be of YAH. It wouldn't be if it wasn't, So I absolutely, it can be practical. But the problem with that, now with that said, let me quantify that by saying this: that it more so than the last topic we were talking about. This honestly, it depends. It depends on the couple. It depends on the individuals. It's really not a monolithic vantage point that you're going to find with our people. It's not like everyone's going to say, "Oh yes," because let's be honest. I mean, you can be polygynous in theory, but be monogamous in practice. Because in your mind, you're like, well, no, polygyny, it's biblical. It's right there. It's not like it's being, people are making it up. It's right there. And in theory, you might say, yes, okay, yes, that's good. Okay, that could work. But it might not work in your circumstances. You may not, let's say you may not have a partner that, that would concede to something like that. And obviously we're not like other communities in the world where you just force it on, your woman to say, hey, woman, this is what it's going to be, and that's it. That's not, that doesn't always work. So again, it depends on the household. It depends on the individual. You have some people who, again, they are, they look at their circumstances, whether it be financial, whether it be just being able to divide your time up. You might be like, I don't know, that might not work for my situation. It might not work for my household. And even if it doesn't work for your household, it doesn't negate the truth of what polygyny is. It just means that it just doesn't work for your household. Or it might work for that person's household. It's honestly, it's a person to person, household to household, community to community type of situation. And I don't think at this point in time, especially in the time that we're in, if you're going to get any cross the board agreement on it, the only thing that I do believe that if it's practiced righteously, and not as a replacement for African American whoremongering and whoredom, but if it's practiced righteously as it was intended and for the reasons it was intended in the scripture, I think it's absolutely practical, but only under those circumstances. If we're using it as a mask, if we're using it as a way to mask our whoredoms and our whoremongering, then no, it absolutely, that's going to fail. But again, it depends on the household. It depends on the individuals, whether it's applicable for your life. So I'm going to purposely leave it at that for now.
All right, we're going to come back to you. Do any of the ladies want to go? You want me to go first? Y'all want to jump in? How y'all want it? And I will say this real quick. Chief from a camp. For those that's watching, was y'all expecting to get that answer from him? You know what I'm saying? Chief 30 years in the game. And that's why I love the people that I have on here. Whether you agree with it or you don't, the approach was good. I love what you have brought out, Chief. And I'm going to pass the mic for anybody that want to go, or I will go if you want me to go. You let me know. Me, go ahead. You go ahead. That's what you said.
And if I may, just very briefly, just to kind of, again, just to quantify what I said earlier, as far as something being, its culture, it is what it is, but it may not work for the individual. That example it doesn't only exist in the topic of polygyny. I mean, think about it like this. Think about the dietary laws. According to Leviticus 11, we can absolutely eat locusts and grasshoppers. Absolutely. Now, with that said, is everyone going to eat locusts and grasshoppers? No. Now, I personally, I've had locusts. I've had locusts. There was a sister back in the days. She used to, in the camp that I came out of, she used to make like how you have meatloaf. She used to make locust loaf, sesame seeds, honey. Incredible. I mean, I could you can't even believe that you're eating an insect, just a bunch of insects made into like a meatloaf. It's incredible. But again, it's lawful, but it may not work for everybody's palate. A person might be like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna, bust down a locust. I don't know, and there's a lot of, and so there's other examples that, for dietary, whatever, but just saying that, it could be, it could be lawful, it could be absolutely in the law, but again, it depends on the individuals and whether or not it can work for them.
Right.
So just because you don't eat locusts doesn't mean that you're breaking the Torah. Like, oh, you're you're wicked as hell. You're not eating locusts. Like, nah, that's not what it is. But we have that. We're given those options to say, okay, if I want to, yes, I can. But again, it depends on on the individual. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want anybody who might be listening or who will be listening at some point, and to make it seem like this is only a polygyny issue. It's like, no, it's all throughout the text.
Okay, dealing with different subject matters. So,
right.
Praises. My thoughts on this topic. I want to tread lightly, especially because the viewers that's watching, just people in general that's watching. Those that know me know that I want to stay balanced with it. So whatever I bring out, it's a reason behind it, and it kind of goes with what Chief's saying. This actually touch base on a lot of subjects. What I'm about to say, it touched base on a lot of subjects, even getting in relationships in general, whether you are monogamous or polygyny, or polygynist, whether being leadership, all of the above. Okay, so I want to preface that. So it's in our literature. It's points where YAH had even brought it out. Y'all know the story. I'm not gonna get into it because I'm not trying to justify it. But my take on it is, I think that a person needs to be prepared. I don't believe that and I can't tell a person what to do, but it goes back to what Chief was saying. Are men doing it for, on some whoredom type stuff, or on some things pertaining to that, right? I think it's not. I don't believe that it's for everyone. I don't believe that every Israelite man is capable of doing it. And I'm saying that broadly. Like, I don't know every Israelite man, but based on how the stuff that I have seen, how we move, men and women alike, but being in particular in this subject, I don't know if we are capable, because it's a lot of trauma that some people, men and women, before coming into this walk, if you're not raised in, if you don't have elders that's teaching you properly, righteous elders or righteous women that's teaching you properly, looking at your mindset, things like that, holding you accountable. It's a lot of people that I see that speak on polygyny, men and women actually, but men that don't have anyone to hold them accountable.
Yes, sir.
That is one of the biggest things when it comes to polygyny, which I believe is not good in our community, is the accountability part. The men that want to do it, and some men probably got that thoughts on doing it might be, or reasons of doing it could be pure. But even if your reasons of doing it is pure, if you're not mentally ready, prepared, or accountable, it's likely that it can fail. You know what I'm saying? You have to be balanced in the mind to be able to deal with multiple women. I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm saying that in general. Dealing with people in general, you have to have a certain type of level of responsibility, accountability. I already said integrity.
Yeah.
It's some men, and this is a book. I'm gonna read two things from this book. This is a great book y'all should get if y'all haven't read it. It's called
reading.
Oh yeah, this should be read, and I love it because it's a balanced book. She's balanced in her approach. It's by Dr. Dixon Spear. I believe she is a doctor, if I'm not mistaken. We want for our sisters what we want for ourselves. African American women who practice polygyny by consent. She went to a few different communities, Hebrew Israelite community being one of them, and she would spend weeks within each of these communities. And what I loved about this read, which I plan on reading it again, when I was doing my study on polygyny, whether in the literature and outside, I like to, and this is what I recommend with men. So forgive me if I'm long-winded, but it's a reason I'm doing this. If you're considering, you have to look at yourself, see how you are with people in general, see how if you're able to handle or deal with different personalities and characteristics. You know what I'm saying? And then look up the history of how some of our people who's in this walk, how they did it. And this is great because she did a great study of the people in Demona and how it started off. Again, I can't tell a man how to do it, but you know, and I'm trying to be careful when I speak. Again, it's household by household, like Gabetta Kathy was bringing out, even though that was a different topic, it still stands for this topic as well. But even though it is household to household, my only advice and encouragement to any men that do it is to really care for the woman's mind frame and thoughts about it. You know, consider, you know, talk with them, you know, have that instructions in the beginning. A lot of times we're moving in a way to where we're not coming with that vision that we was talking about, Proverbs 28 and 11, Proverbs 29, one of the two. And it's not a vision behind this. And in this book, when she was doing it, she was exposing or showing, not exposing, but showing it was in Demona, they was trying to get it right. So they was failing a little bit, but they started learning the proper way of doing it. Men was coming from the United States and just jumping into this, you know, whether they was pure about it or not, I don't know, but the vision has to be there. The instruction has to be there. The accountability has to be there. All right. So I'm gonna read this one thing real quick too. I want to give a little history. She brought out some history, and I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read a paragraph. And this is chapter 2, page 19. Again, this is a great book, you all. It says, although it may appear that exclusive monogamy has been the most accepted marriage practice throughout the world, in his 1949 sample of 250 societies, for which there was sufficient information on 238 of them, George P. Murdoch found polygyny to be practiced. Now, practice doesn't mean everybody was doing it within the society. I want to make that known, make that clear. It doesn't mean every man was doing it. It kind of goes back what Chief was talking about with the locusts and stuff. But it just shows that these societies practice it, right? So he found polygyny to be practiced in 193 or 81%. So 193 or 81%. In a later, more extensive investigation of 862 societies, which he summarized in Ethnographic Atlas, Murdoch in 1967 found polygyny to be practiced in 724 societies, or 85%. There were only 138 or 16% of societies in which monogamy was the only marriage practice. Of the 22 European societies, it's a concept, a European concept, more so, included in his study, monogamy as an exclusive marriage practice was found in 21. So out of the 22 European societies that he studied, 21 of them practice out of the 22 European societies included in this study, monogamy as an exclusive marriage practice was found in 21 of those societies. So one was polygyny, the other 21 were monogamous. So I'm not going to go through the points in this book. I think, again, this is an excellent book because, especially if men read it too, because you're going to see how these are women she's going to, by the way. She went to the women of all these different groups, and some of them didn't speak freely. But in the Hebrew Israelite community, they was able to speak freely. They was able to speak on the cons and the pros and things of that nature. So the only thing that I could say, I do believe that it is practical in modern times, especially if you have, last thing I'm gonna say, especially if you have a large group, not saying that is a large group in our community, to where we're steady passing down our children going down the wrong path. So if you have a man and a woman that's righteous, and they do bring in another sister that's righteous, and they're teaching their children to be righteous, now you're producing more children to be more righteous, and it's starting to grow our nation in that way. You know, again, not to say to do it or not. Monogamous is needed as well. So with that, I yield. I really do want to say, get this book, even if you're monogamous, not to become polygynous, but to have a balanced outlook, because she goes in on the cons. The cons is a learning tool in this book. So for polygynous men and women, if that makes sense, pay attention to the cons too. Before you put yourself in this situation to do polygyny, you gotta have the right mind frame for it to protect both both of the women, or how many women it is, to protect everyone. So that's my outtake or my outlook on polygyny as a whole. Without talking too much, I'll feed off of you all. So I'm gonna pass the mic to either Gabetta Kathy or Gabetta Sharon. Y'all can take the floor.
Okay, so let's get into the I want to pinpoint the two definitions of practical, because I have a yes and a no, that it can be practical, and no, that it can't be practical. So if we're talking in the sense of the actual doing it versus having an idea about it, then no. And I say no because we can have an idea about things, right? Salika, my mic.
Can
you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. So if we're talking in the sense of actually doing it versus just having an idea or a theory about it, then no, I don't think it's practical in modern times. And the reason I say no is because we can have an idea of how something is supposed to be, or how we want it to go, or how we tell ourselves this is what we want to do once the situation comes about. But once the situation really comes about, then you have to be hands-on to a lot of blind spots that wasn't revealed when you consumed the thought of polygyny, versus actually dealing with the blind spots of dealing with, polygyny itself. Now, if we're talking about in a sense of something that's likely to succeed or be effective, then yes, I do think it's practical. Because anything is likely to succeed if we put action and plan. It's just like a monogamy relationship. So when you get into a polygamous relationship, you're not going to do the same thing that you would do in a monogamous relationship. That's something that I never understood, why many people turn down or frown upon polygamous relationships. Also, we have to consider the examples of polygynous relationships as well. Sometimes the example turns people off. Sometimes we allot those examples as if they are our characteristics, versus actual being who we are as a person and doing it and implementing it. So it's just like if a man comes into truth with a woman and he breaks her heart, and then he detests the Most High. It's the same concept. So you're going to let that example, you're going to let that example dictate you as a person and how you will handle a polygamous relationship. So it like Chief said, it depends. It depends how practical it can be in modern times. For me, it definitely have more pros than cons.
Okay.
Definitely. I am pro poly. I wasn't always pro poly because it was always an emotional stunt on why I didn't understand the structure of polygyny in our communities. But it's basically having sense of community, having sense of what it takes to be a village. That's practically what it is.
Right.
But a lot of our sisters turn it down because we can't get over that emotional hump. that emotional stagnant in between, practicing polygyny in our communities. However, one thing, and I do have one thing, however, it's a dysfunction in our communities because if we see a polygynous relationship or potential righteous polygyny relationship, we are easier to turn that down, but deal with drama and chaos and a baby mama, baby father dynamic. So that type of mentality is running rapid in our community as well. Very concernable. But I do think it's practical depending on the context that you are saying it which, and I just think that we need more positive examples. I just think that we need to get back on the mentality of how to deal in a community, and I think we can move forward from there, but we need examples to show people how to be in a community. And I think that's one of the major problems is we lost sense of community. We lost sense of village, so it's like we have a hard time dealing with each other.
Okay. I love what you brought out too. I love what you brought out as far as the part where you said we'll look at the one example or a couple examples or a few examples to where, see, that's why it don't work. But then here it is that I'm gonna use me for an example. Oh, see, it's an echo. Hold on. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna use me for an example. I ain't know nothing about no polygyny when I was a Christian, and I read the Bible. I didn't even pay attention to it, right? And most people that I know don't, and they didn't pay attention to it. But it's a lot of dysfunction in monogamous. Now, I want to say that monogamy. I want to say this. I didn't know anyone's stance. Like, this is all organic. I didn't even know about Ahot, what she just said. So I want to let you all know that none of what we're saying is rehearsed. It's all organic. That's what I love about it and the way that we bring it out. So I'm gonna pass the mic to the better Kathy, but I did want to say I love that example you brought out, Ahot, as far as that looking at something and then we turned off from it, but we're not looking at. I'm gonna pass.
It's like I look at a monogamous relationship and I try my best to run from that. Like help run it, like.
But and the funny thing is, I think this also it goes right back to it really depending on the households, the individuals. Because let's be honest. We're talking about statistics. You have a way better chance of having a successful polygynous marriage than a monogamous one. The numbers in monogamy are horrible.
Hey, bring it out.
Yes.
You really.
It's hard, but again, even with that said, there are I've seen like one of my primary teachers, Chief of Chiefs Naphtali, Most High bless his memory. He was a polygynist in theory, but he was monogamous in a practical sense, and was married to the same woman for nearly 60 years. And you see, monogamy. First of all, any type of marriage is supposed to work regardless. The institution itself was set up by the Most High. It was meant to be successful, whether it's monogamy, whether it's polygyny. It was meant to be successful. It wasn't meant to be rampant failures. So I think, again, just to be fair, I don't want to, because there's people out there that will use those numbers and say, yeah, see, that's why, monogamy doesn't work. And it's like, well, but you got to be monogamous before you're polygynous. You got to have at least one before you move on. And so it has to, if you can't make monogamy work, you're probably going to fail at polygyny as well. Because polygyny is much harder. And I just wanted to just say that, just put that in there. So, and my bad to Sister Kathy for me sliding in. No, yeah, My apologies for that.
No, I love it. I love the build. Make this a real conversation. It's going great, man. But go ahead. Better, Kathy. You are muted.
I don't know if it's unfortunately or fortunately that my opinion is going to kind of be minimum here. As you guys know, I'm new and to my understanding who I am. But if I had to speak freely on my opinion of it,
please do.
I am in agreement with the chief that it is an individual based preference. I personally do not see anything wrong with it. I live in a household where my children are grown. So right now we are nurturing our grandchildren. So where I can see this setting would be beneficial more so with someone with a new family, a younger family, whatever. But I have to say that I'm not in that type of relationship, but I love my husband's ex-wife. We have a great relationship. We are able to converse about our children and our blessed grandchild together. What's best for these children. So I don't have that desire to be with her in that way or to bring her into that household, in our household, that to that degree. But you got to look at it. She is. And I personally felt from the onset of my husband's relationship that was important. That she needed to know that she had someone that supported her, that would love her children, and that would be there for her ex, as well as those children. So this may be going a little bit above that, and not maybe not fitting into that category. But that's what that category means to me. I know she's never going to be married into this family, but I love her to that degree. And I feel that her involvement is important in our life, in our children's life. They have 4 children together. We have 2 that have graduated from high school, teachers. We got 2 more, that we are just ecstatic about seeing where they're going to go. So that's my relationship, if that makes any sense. And I'm gratified. I'm totally satisfied with that, because we typically as sisters don't have that relationship. If that's your ex, that's your ex. And again, I may be going a little bit to the left, but that's my
right on point. I just want to say that. I just want to jump in and say, I think you're not, but I'm gonna explain once you're done. I love what you're saying.
But that's so. I'm not in a love relationship with this person, but I love her. We have open communication about our children, even her ex, because again, that's important. If I ever decided I wanted to go that way, and if she was that would be that path. So again, I'm new with this. I have an understanding of it. And I'm just speaking honestly about how I feel. And my ex's children's mother, she is the greatest, at what she do and what she try to do for her children, incorporating me and their father. We don't have that type of bump heads. And I'm just thankful for that. So I'm sorry that I don't have as much to input on it specifically, but that's my position in it.
You actually did though.
Yeah. You made some. I have a little comment. I want to slide something in there really fast. It is possible to have a dynamic where a man can have a wife and have a woman that he is covering, but not necessarily married to or being intimate with. And and what you were saying, Kathy, kind of like, it kind of like reminded me of that structure, or what is one to do in that type of structure, or is that type of dynamic practical in modern times? A man necessarily like taking care of his wife, he has his own household, but he also takes care of a single mother. He's like, like she's under his covering, but he's not being intimate with her, nor is he forcing intimacy upon her.
Mm-hmm. Agree, Kane, and you know me just as well as anyone on that panel, and that's something that I deem respect of my husband. You're gonna have that relationship. I deem that support important. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we can stretch this type of relationship out, beyond what we're talking about right now. I'm just expressing to you what we have, that, I thrive on these three parties understanding each other and coming together for the most importance of these children. That's what's important. We ain't talking about being married and doing anything like that, but that's what's important to me. That's what's important to her. That's what's important to him. And yes, it was a throwback, because as someone indicated earlier, in our African American community, we are so used to our Black women being angry. And I'm just trying to say on this note, because I still feel like that's a state of polygamy, that I love my children's father. I know she loves me. We can come together and we do what we got to do. You know what I mean? For our children, it may not have to go to the next level, but we got each other's back, and that's what's important. And that's all I have to say. That it's totally odd, and I've received a lot of ridicule and a backlash about it. If anyone is watching that know what I'm talking about, that why would you want to even be friends with somebody, that is Excalibur? Number one, kids were still involved. Number one, that's my sister at the end of the day. And as my grandmother always told me, it's his story, her story, and the truth. I don't levitate to someone that I am emotionally more so attached to and fall in line with their emotional standpoint. I'm a detective. Sharon would tell you, my husband will tell you, I'm digging. You're not going to get me caught in that. So that's why I kind of like want to bow out gracefully on that, because my view is maybe a little bit different.
I don't think it's different. I think you're bringing out what's different as far as subject is concerned, but the beautiful thing that you're bringing out about it is sisterhood. Yes. Polygyny, in order to be a part of, and this is what I gathered from, because I know people personally that's polygynous, got 3 wives, 4 wives, 2 wives, whatever, and I see how they operate. And these are some great, like one of the men in particular, if I move to Spider Jordan, he is a great man, and if he's watching this, he knows who I'm talking about, and you all might know him too. I'm not gonna put his name out there, but one of the things, and the only way that it can work is through that sisterhood that you're speaking of. So although it's a different subject that you're speaking of, it's still a great component, to put in this, because you're speaking on sisterhood. And not even saying it will, y'all will end up being polygynous or anything like that, but the fact of that love, that sisterhood, that the children being basically everyone's children in a sense, wait till you read. I don't know if you go get the book, but check out the book. It's gonna be some cons, but you brought out some stuff that's actually within this too. So this was a powerful show to me, man. And I can't wait till we continue to build and grow on these topics. I hope that our coach Sharon wrote down that one topic she brought up. Did you all have anything else to bring out? Yeah, and for those that's watching, if you have any comments or questions, please put something in the chat. Let us know. We could speak on it, or we could bring you on in the future. Bring you on the panel with us to give your thoughts, so we could give you a number to call in. Because this is YAH Conscience Radio. Well, if it's not YAH Conscience, it's not acceptable. So, any last words, anyone? Any last words? You're muted again.
We need to do part 2 of some of these questions and concerns that was left on this table.
Let's do it.
Especially what Sister Sharon had brought up. I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely gonna do that. Look, we're gonna have a lot of topics that we got to cover. What we're bringing out is not going to change the whole community, whether so-called Black community or even within our community. But what it will do, in my opinion, is for those that tune in, for those that share it to other people, it might spark some in people's thought process. We might say something that might help, or they might come on and say something that might help us as well. This was wonderful. How you say her name? Potato Top? Potato Tot. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You chiming in. Great.
Yeah, we love it. Definitely. So tune in. Make sure you subscribe. Potato Tot. I like the name. Make sure you subscribe and please tune in every Thursday. We're going to be having more topics like these, and we're going to be trying to produce solutions and our thoughts and try to keep it balanced, keep it righteous, but we're still going to tell how we feel. And that's what I love about the panel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to close out with a song. Is there anything that anyone else had to say before I play this last song and then bid you all a farewell or peace?
Good.
Anything.
Good. Thank you for the opportunity again. Great. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we got a long time to go.
I enjoyed it myself.
We got a long time to go, y'all. So be ready. So let me go ahead and play one of my joints. It's called Settle This Thing. And a little backstory of the Settle This Thing is I want you to listen closely to the first verse that's dealing with man and woman. And then the second verse is dealing with the man and a woman looking at how society is moving and causing us to think certain ways. That's why I wanted to play it. Also, it's dealing with arguments. We need to get rid of the arguments, come to a solution, have a vision, have something in place to where, hey, if this happens, this is how we can move, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I wrote this song. Hopefully you all like it. And without further ado, if it ain't YAH Conscious, it's not acceptable. Remember that. Shalom, shalom, and Laila Thob.
There's a line of couples just going through unnecessary things, just arguing cause we can't figure out the route we should go when things get cold. I know what it's like to let pride in the way. You know what it's like to separate decay. Our flesh that we made one back to where we came from, a place we didn't have life. Here this present day with us wasn't you, wasn't me. When facing them we couldn't see, cause they would block what was beneath. It was a flood ready to stream, so we could grow, so we could breathe. And now those things I got with you, but don't allow how we once felt others to come through. Your body all over my body, babe. Your head on my chest, you're the cure to my stress. Oh yeah, my body all over your body, babe. You're the best we both had, but we'd rather be mad. I'm mad at you, you mad at me. Who's in the wrong? Who's in the wrong? What does that mean? That's what I see. That's what I see. We just act like the king and the queen that we are. Settle this thing. Yeah. Take a moment, let's both sit back and just watch. We've been operating just the way they want. Royalty within us fading, there I bleed. Separate those failing thoughts is what we need. Method for family and sons. Look at our stats, the work for us. Based on the past, how can we trust? Conditioning, once was a must. Gotta go back to how it was. The ways of old, that's best for us. Our culture, our people, our rules of love. Our culture, our people, our rules of love. I just want your head on my desk. You're the cure to my stress. Oh yeah, my body all over your body. In the past we both had, but we'd rather be mad. Rather you, rather me. Who's in the wrong? What does that mean? What does it mean? Misunderstanding. That's what I see. That's what I see. Now we just act like the king and the queen that we are. Settle these things. Why don't we settle these things? You're a queen, I'm a king. Keep everyone away. Yeah. Keep